Physical training, self-defense training, firearms training, situational awareness, and the warrior mindset. Welcome to the Condition 1 podcast. This is a podcast where we'll be talking about Welcome to the Condition 1 podcast. This is a podcast where we'll be talking about being ready. We'll also be speaking to victim survivors of physical encounters, how they dealt with the aftermath, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Welcome to the Condition 1 podcast with me, your host, John Riddle. I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Crestwood Technology Group. CTG supplies the defense and aviation industries with critical parts and materials designed to keep fleets and systems operational, ready, and safe. Check out the Crestwood Technology Group at ctgnow.com. And welcome to the Condition 1 podcast with me, your host, John Riddle. Today we have a guest, Hank Hayes. Hank is the owner of No Lie Blades and Intuitive Self-Protection. Hank, welcome aboard, buddy. How you been?
Hi, John. It's great to be here. Thanks so much. I've been excited to do this with you, and I've always enjoyed the work you've done, on the job and, on the team, the unit, and then the work you're doing now. So let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Cool. All right, Hank, a little icebreaker on questions that I always ask people, and I stole this from Mike Ritlin from the Mic Drop podcast, and that is, how do you start your day?
How do I start my day? I start my day with prayer and meditation, or prayer and affirmation. Either one of those two, and I will also go over my goals that I have and my path to achieving those goals. So basically, I'm kind of aligning myself mentally. The mindset piece for me is huge, man. Gratitude's fucking tremendous for me, right? So I know why I'm doing what I'm doing, and it sets me right. My family, my extended family, my friends, staff, team members, people that we serve. And then I want to get myself right for where am I going in this day to achieve this big rock goal that I'm trying to get to, that I'm working toward. And that helps me break it down into those milestone chunks for the day's activities and keeps me on par.
Cool. Do you write things down? Do you make a list? Like me, I have a calendar book. I have another calendar book, and I write things down as to what I want to accomplish throughout the week and also throughout the next day. And I usually review that at night. Do you do something like that?
I do something like that. I have what I'm looking for to achieve through the week. At the end of the day, I do basically a goals attained list. So the things, like 3 things that I've got done that I'm happy about, that I'm proud about, and I also write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. Now I will set up the day with basically 3 main movers that I want to accomplish. But then, of course, I have my, my smaller tasks and any meetings and or appointments that I have through the day. That's kind of how I roll. I'm always looking to make it better. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a course coming up here with a guy named Dan Luck, and he's a pretty successful guy out of Canada. And I'm looking to add some of that into my, if you will, modus operandi or my go forward. But yeah, it's great stuff.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we all need that, especially in business, to have something to keep us moving forward, right? Because we can always get into some knee-deep mud if we allow it. So we always have to have those goals and objectives to follow. So for people who don't know you, tell me about yourself. Tell us about
Yeah.
Hank Hayes. Where is Hank Hayes? Tell me a little bit about Hank Hayes.
Yeah. So in regards to condition one and the topic of self-defense, mindset, readiness. So, obviously, I'm a black dude, right? Okay. So grew up in New York City, on the Italian side of town in the 60s, right? So I don't need to tell too many people what it was like back then in the 60s. And as a matter of fact, I was just talking with someone on the phone with this. So still to the day, my mom is the only black person that lives in that Italian neighborhood in Staten Island, New York. 56 years later, same house, same phone number, only black person there. And this is a New York thing. So if people don't know, like how things go, like in New York and Chicago, it's broken up into ethnicities of
Yeah,
areas.
I grew up in Philly, and it's the same way.
Oh, yeah. So there you got it. You got it. Yeah. Yeah. So I say, unfortunately, or now we could switch that over to fortunately, but it wasn't if I was going to get into a fight. It was when, how many people, and what weapons I was going to have to defend against. That was my day, right? So yeah, I learned to read people, and I learned to pick an entry point because, well, back then, look, school is that way, so I got to go that way. So I'm not. The mindset then wasn't to run. The mindset was to I'm gonna surge into this fight, and I'm gonna do the best I can. And you learn some tricks along the way how to win more than lose. And a lot of that is hit fast, hit first, hit hard, angle off, do it again. And then I might choose to run, or I might choose to stack people. I didn't even know those terminologies. I just knew that if I hit the guy that seemed to be the leader, or the one that was either closest to me, or the one that was causing the most trouble, if I hit him, with a knee to the groin, or or if I look to punch him in his eyeball, that would affect those other guys mentally. Sure. And now I can articulate. I just knew that that's what worked when I was, this was at 5 years old, man. This is what I had to do. This was the way it was.
Crazy. But the early days of learning, right? So,
yes.
Okay, so Staten Island, you grew up. When did you move out of Staten Island?
Yeah, so at about 26 years old, I was fortunate. My parents definitely treated us to a lot. My father was a principal and a real estate guy. They did okay. They did okay, and we had traveled a lot, and we had been to. By the time I was 18 or 20, I had been to a number of different countries, and traveled around the U.S. And I knew that I didn't want to live in New York anymore. That wasn't my thing. And I moved to California. And during the time prior to leaving, I ended up getting into executive protection work. I actually was a bodyguard for the Ramones for a period of time when they were traveling here, and then did work for Dayne. And then when I moved out to California, I started working for Aretha Franklin. And that was great. I worked for her for 2 years, and did a bunch of executive protection work in California in my early days there.
Very cool. Some names there, man. Wow. So
yeah, fun stuff.
In California, and I know you have a heavy martial background. California seemed to be like the mecca of the time of martial arts. What did you study out there?
Yeah, wow. So at age 10, now I'm going to jump back to New York. Like I was a really angry kid. Like, man, I had some serious anger issues, man. And my parents were like, we got to get this kid into something. So at age 10, on First and Broadway, I started off with judo, sensei high pai sin. And I needed something, and it was great. But I knew right away that the lapel and the arm grab and what he called at the time shimmy, so off balancing of judo, I was like, okay, this is fun, but this isn't going to work at the bus stop. Like shimmying, like I got to hit somebody, got to hit them freaking hard. But what I learned was that if in this, so imagine the lapel grab and the arm grab, that if I pushed and pulled and head butted, that would get my off balance happening. Then I could get in and do the throw.
Right.
So this is, dude, I'm figuring this out as I'm 11, 12 years old. Right. And then I switched from judo to, and this was down at the place called the CYO, Catholic Youth Organization.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they had Golden Gloves boxing down there underneath the ferry terminal, the Staten Island ferry. Yep. And then I just got into Golden Gloves boxing, and that changed a lot of things, because boxing there, yeah, man, you learn to hit, you learn to take a hit, you learn to move, you learn to have some stamina. And that was really, really good. And then I got into a thing called VADA, Vazramadine, which basically, the system has a reputation for, they say, are you the guys that fight with garbage cans and bricks? We're like, yep, that's us. It's this true story, man. VADA, wicked fighting system.
Where's that base from? Where does that come from?
Yeah, so that comes from Tibet. It comes originally from Tibet, and it's the original name is Vazramadine, and it's primarily on the East Coast, and basically bunch of classy guys, but yeah, they're finishers for sure. They're finishers for sure. It's a small system. It's kind of a brotherhood of guys that they don't want to start stuff, but when it's time to finish, they're gonna get it done. Yeah, yeah. And then I moved to California, and then that's where I got involved in the whole Dan and Asanto thing. Okay. Dan and Asanto, and I trained under Paul Vunak for about 10 years, and I was Vunak's guy for like 10 years.
Okay.
Yep, and then did the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and, Sistema, and just a number of different arts, flamenco and Kali, and that's what I did. That was my outlet. That was my life. Besides bodyguarding work, that's what I did.
Out of all of those, do you have a favorite? A go-to?
No, I actually don't. That's where how NLB came about. I would pick and choose what I like best about each art and kind of make it my own. And then so in this art VADA, to get your master rank, you have to put together a thesis. What's your contribution as becoming a master? What is your contribution to make the art bigger and better? So now your students who will train under you have the things that you've contributed toward your, if you will, version of the fighting system, if that makes any sense. I really, as far as fighting goes, so this is great, by the way. Thanks for the opportunity to share the story. So yeah, I did get spiritual benefits from the arts, and I did get really fit from the arts. And I learned a lot about myself through the arts, the 5 rings, all that stuff. but I do the arts for one reason, and hopefully, I don't know, your producer might bleep this out, but I'm into, if someone's fucking with my family, or if you're gonna fuck with me, I'm looking to solve that problem.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
what's up.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm on board with you.
So I mean, that all the nice stuff is great, but it's protection based. 100% is my focus on what I do and when I teach people, whether it be, you know, rifle system, pistol, edge weapons, blunt weapon, empty hand. The mindset is about one thing: preservation of life and eliminating bad guys that are looking to, do bad stuff to good people.
Absolutely. Great way. Great way to put it. Great way to put it. You mentioned NLB and NLB no lie blades, and
Yeah.
I've got several in my toolkit here at the school. How was that developed? I mean, when I first, and I think it was before I met you, before we trained together, I was looking at these blades and I'm thinking, man, it's pretty cool concept, and put lipstick on the edges of it. It's a no lie. I mean, they're named perfectly, right? So
Thank you.
how did you come up with this?
Yep. So interesting. So when I was 12 years old, my dad was Army. And when I was 12 years old, I remember this very distinctly in the backyard. He came up and he said, "Hey, son," he goes, "I want to talk to you about some stuff." And he said, "Listen, I want to give you this knife, right? And you can use it for utilitarian purposes, but you can also use it to defend yourself with if you have to." And he goes, "Unfortunately, I don't know a lot about knife defense, excuse me, but I want you to have this, and I'm sure you'll find uses for it and a way with your martial arts friends how to use this in an effective way." So that always stuck with me, right? All this knife thing. And then, unfortunately, when I was in high school, I got attacked by some dudes with a knife. And I've had a couple of things. So people ask me this, through my career of doing this, and 75 hand-to-hand fights, 3 knife encounters, and 1 gunfight. And knife, man, yeah, it's pretty freaking nasty. And I've seen 2 guys killed this far away from me with a knife. Guy stabbed 17 times, bled out all over my shoes. And yes, and people are watching probably going, "Man, where the hell did this kid grow up?" Right? But that's what's up. And so through the years of doing martial arts, I would always say to myself, yeah, that technique, that shit isn't gonna fucking work. It's not gonna work because, with the blocking and this redirecting and passing and catching a blade in the midair, I'm like, I don't think that's gonna work. As a matter of fact, when I was 14 years old, I went to Brooklyn Tech, and I had to take a train to a bus to a ferry to get home. That's literally what was up, right? I got off the subway, and on the other side of the subway platform, you could hear these blood-curdling screams, and I was like, "Whoa, that doesn't sound good." And through the New York, Brooklyn buildings, you could hear the screaming echoing through the buildings. And I see this guy coming up from the subway holding what looked like a garden hose to me. Right? And he's coming up and he's holding this thing here. And I'm looking and I'm going, what are all these things that he's holding? dude, it was his intestines.
Yeah.
It was his intestines. I was like, and he looked at me, he was like, help me, help me. And unfortunately, I wasn't helping him, man. I was out of there. But what it embedded in my mind, now let's flash forward to a dojo. Everything's matted out, everything's well lit, everybody's in their gis, and they're doing this move or whatever. And I'm like thinking back about that guy in the subway. And I'm like, man, all you need to do, as a matter of fact, all this needs to do is just make contact and you got a problem. If it hits an artery, you got a problem. You got a problem. The freaking stopwatch is on. It doesn't matter how much, whatever it is that you know, how much muscle you got a problem. So throughout the years of studying all these arts, I kept questioning and going back to, would that work? Would that work? And I would try it. And, you know, like I said, I studied Kali and Lamenko and Balana. I studied that for a long time. And it looked pretty badass. It looks awesome. But then I was like, is this gonna work? So then I don't know, you may know the name in the industry, a guy named Steve Tarani. Yep, so he teaches, he does a lot at Sig Sauer Academy. They have courses, yeah. So I studied under Steve for about 2 years, and Steve has some real deal stuff, man. And I was in class, and at the time I must have been about, I guess I was about 30, about 30 years old. Man, this little Puerto Rican girl with this knife, dude, she fucking whooped my ass with this knife and this little stick. And man, and I didn't fess up on a lot of the little cuts she had on me because my ego got in the way. And I was like, drove home in my little convertible, and I went to Denny's to eat on the way home. And in Denny's, I drew on a napkin the prototype design for the no live blade.
Wow.
And that's where that's how it was birthed. That's the story, man.
Excellent.
That's the story. There needed to be a way to immediately, accurately, and memorably. So it need immediate feedback. It needs to be accurate, and it needed to be memorable. And that's where he came up with basically a felt tip pen on the edge of a knife. So instead of this edge cutting, this edge would leave a feedback mark, just like this magic marker would. So as opposed to this cutting, you got this leaving this feedback mark on the edge of the knife. I don't have one, but there you go.
Excellent. You know, I was always wondering how how that got developed and the reasoning as to why. So that was very clear. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you got it.
It's a truth teller. No lie blade is a truth teller. You know, you put two people together and give each one of them a no lie blade, and you put some lipstick on the end of that, and you're going to see some movement changing because people don't want to get touched with it. You know, so do you find that does it settle egos?
Oh my gosh, dude, it is the great equalizer. It really is. And so, you know, well, actually, no, folks, how could they know? So NLB, so what NLB is a company that services mainly special forces units, departments for law enforcement and military. And mainly that's who we serve, not usually recruit level or not usually boot camp level. It's basically in-service special tier guys. So when I would go into either the training coordinator, a sergeant, or a lieutenant's office, or on the military side, could be, the training cadre leader or someone at the major or captain level. They've heard of us somehow. So I got introduced to them via some relationship out there, but they don't know me. So I just walk in with this tool and I just put it on the desk. Literally, this is how I close deals. I put it on the desk and I go, that tool is the equalizer. That'll settle everything. Everybody will be in check. Within 15 minutes of being on the deck, we're gonna know who has game and who doesn't have game, and everybody else is gonna know. And he just looks at the blade, or she just looks at the blade, but mainly it's a man's who's in that role. But they're looking at it, and they look at me, and they look back at the blade, and then it comes in one form or another. Tell me more. All right, that's one. Tell me more. Or how does that usually go? It's some kind of very open-ended question. They want to find out more, and that's how it works. Yes, it is an ego check for sure.
I used it just recently teaching a private security group at a college. I had a chance to, they hired me, and it's an ongoing thing with them, but I brought the no-lie blades in, and we did some work with, knife defense. And I told them all, I said, you bring white t-shirts with you when you come in tomorrow morning, and I'll introduce you to some realistic.
How did that go? I'm interested to hear how that went.
It went great. They loved it. These are guys. They're not cops. They're hired by off the street, okay, by this private college. So they're building a security team. So they wanted to specifically know baton, pepper spray, some empty hand control techniques, some verbal de-escalation. And then I looked at it and I said, okay, you're here on a college campus. I said, you're going to be dealing with edged weapons also. I said, it might not be a knife. It might be a broken beer bottle. It might be a screwdriver. It might be something that's going to enter your body. So I said, this is what I have. This is what I'm going to bring into the training venue, and we're going to work with this. And you're going to see. And you're going to see how well you do or you do not move. And I said, and then with that, I gave them some lessons on how to control, and how to get away if they have to, right? Because they're not armed. They're not armed with firearms.
Wow. Okay.
They're all baton and pepper spray. That's it. They're not a firearms related type security team. So anyway, it went over really well. I brought everything in, laid it out, gave brief, and we talked about what we were going to do, and then we put it to work, and they loved it. They loved it.
You know what? That's good. And I think, if I may, I kind of want to, those who are listening here, I've been doing this professionally since 1973. So like I said, when I was 10, so I was born in 1963, and I started with Sensor High Sin in August of 1973. I've been training ever since. I'm always under instruction. The last course I took was 3 months ago with Commander Paul Smith, who was the commander for the Army Rangers. I just took his long range course 3 months ago. We shot out to 1,000 yards. So I'm always training. Those who are thinking, who are in the Florida area or in that South area, John Riddle is one of the best that's out there because of your mindset, and possibly, and I don't know, because maybe we'll get the opportunity for you to come on our podcast, because I'd like to learn more about the depths of your work. But being on the street in a SWAT capacity, you know, you got to bring the heat. And at that point in time, you know, asking questions, you know, at a SWAT level, you got to get into action.
Absolutely.
Yep. And you know, when we first trained together, I'm like, oh, okay, this brother's got some game. Yeah. I was loving it. That's how we met. And so if you're in the market for good training, seek John out. He will deliver.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah. Hey,
Yes.
I know, you know, in training law enforcement, training military, you know, and then we have the civilian entity, right? So the military and law enforcement, we're both military. I was in law enforcement for 28 years, being trained, and then into the civilian capacity. How do you look at the three different entities when you're trained? Because you have the ability to train all three. So what I'm getting at here is, without beating around the bush, I believe the civilian market is probably neglected the most. Now, it might be because of trainers, companies like to train law enforcement and military, and it could be of the civilian entity's own doing, where I don't know if I want to train, I don't have the money to train, I don't want to get hurt, I don't want to this, I don't want to that. Do you come across, now again, going back to the three different entities that you train, military people that you train have good budgets. So you can go in there, you can train them, and they'll come back, and they'll come back, and they'll come back. Law enforcement, the budget gets a little shaky here every once in a while, right? So if you can get in there and you're training them, great. And if they really love you, they'll try to bring you back according to their budget. Civilian world, I have to pay it out of my pocket. Now, I'm preaching to the choir, because over the years of law enforcement, when I was told we don't have it in the budget for you to go to school, I opened my wallet and I paid my own way. And I did that for a number of years. I know I say a number of years, I'm going to put it on the money side of it and say thousands of dollars out of my own pocket for training. Okay? So do you believe that the civilian population needs more training? Are they neglected in our area of what we do?
Yeah, well, greatly so. Right. So, wow, man, that's that's opening up a can, right? That's opening up a big can. And the reason why I say that is, so there are lots of MIC dojos out there, right? And so what I mean by that is guys who are in it for the money and in it for the, you know, we like to say, look, okay, we will train you as quickly as possible, teach you as much as possible, and charge a reasonable rate for it. Well, there's also a different model. We will charge you as much as we can, teach as slowly as we can, and stretch that whole thing out through this whole drawn out belt system and grading system, and they're just feeding it really, really slowly. And that's a bad model, and it's bad for the student at the end of that whole path.
Okay, let me ask you a question real quick on that, because we see a lot of that. And how can I put this? We always talk about back in the day, right? Martial arts first started, right? There was no belt. And then it may have been with a gi, you throw a white belt on and you don't get anything else. And over years and time, that white belt turns to a black belt, right? You don't get new colors. It turns dark because of blood, sweat, and tears, right? So you look at that today. Do you believe that the American people need to have something tangible to show their progress? Or do you think, is it your belief that we can teach you something in a week, shake hands, say goodbye, and you're good to go?
Yeah, well, I believe it really depends on the instructor. So, maybe an example here. People go, "Oh man, you got to study Krav Maga. You got to study Krav Maga. Krav is an awesome art." But what if the guy instructing it doesn't know his ass from his elbow? So it doesn't matter now what it is, so let's hold that right here for a second. I'm a performance sports car guy, right? I love my sports car, right? Well, now you can take a guy who doesn't know how to drive well, that car isn't going to help him out that much, right? If you don't know how to hit the apex of the turn and power out or power brake in, or gas and brake at the same time to power slide around a turn, that's really not going to, the car's not going to help you. So the art isn't the deciding factor. It's the person teaching it and how they teach it. So, I know in both NLB and ISP, we do immersion trainings. So we'll bring people in for a short amount of time and they come out completely different. But the key difference there is shifting their mindset. And, like an example might be, in knife, it's the knowing that, man, you need to do something really quick to stop him. You got to shut him down from doing what he's doing. So that doesn't have to be a block. That doesn't have to be trying to capture the weapon-bearing limb. There's almost always some kind of object around that can be used to equalize the fight. So I can hit him with a book and change his whole OODA loop, and then I can get gone. I could run. Or I could hit him with that book and then blitz attack. So while some dude is talking about, let's do this move and let's do this technique, we're not talking about that. We're talking about shutting down his mindset through blitz pain, and now I'm getting gone or going in. Right. And there are a lot of good instructors out there doing a lot of good work, but I think that really needs to be picked through and looking at what is the format and what is the process that organization is doing. How is that instructor doing what he's doing? And then doing your due diligence and looking at background and talking with people who you can read through some stuff, but I think that the homework needs to be done on the pedigree.
Absolutely. Agreed. All right. So tell me about intuitive self-protection. That's the other side of your house?
Yeah. So that's the other company, Intuitive Self-Protection, right? So that's what it is, intuitive self-protection. So it doesn't matter if it's this, and it doesn't matter if this gun is hot. It doesn't matter if it's this. I want to be able to utilize that tool in an intuitive way. And intuitive self-protection, basically, we teach the same skill sets that we do to law enforcement, military. However, we don't teach the stuff that we should not be teaching, meaning there's some things on the military side and the LE side that, sorry, civilian,
The end result's different.
yeah, but the end result's different, and just don't need to know those certain things. But basically, it's the same stuff, but taught in a different way. We believe in intuitive self-protection, that everybody deserves and has the right to protect themselves. Whether you're 18 years old or 80 years old, no one should be able to violate you, right? So if the 80-year-old person comes in, we're not going to focus on hand to hand, because they don't have the abilities at the same level as a person who's 50 years old to work hand to hand and then transition to their firearm or their edge weapon. So basically, what I'm saying is focusing on the needs of that individual, meeting them where they're at, and we're not doing the military or law enforcement thing where we're yelling and screaming, and this is the target goal, and you have to get to the target goal. And ISP, it's a little more of a softer touch. If you want to go fast, we'll get you there fast. If you need to go slow and you need to be talked to at a little bit more, if I could use the word, bedside manner, or more delicately, because we're here in Virginia Beach, so there are more military bases here than anywhere else in the entire world. So we get a lot of guys whose wives are, from the SEAL Command. You got a lot of guys who are wives are. I'm sorry, a lot of guys who are in the FAST company and a lot of these special teams, and they've learned stuff from their husbands, who've learned stuff from the command, who it's yelling and screaming, and it's got to be this way, and you need to do it. They don't want anything to do with that.
Right.
They need a totally different approach, a softer approach. And so, yeah, that's what we do in ISP, and we're doing pretty good in that company, man. Our classes are minimum 20 people on up to 34 people. We do these 2 and 3 day events. We do it here at a very, very, I can't say on this where we do most of our training, but it's a secure location, and it's a very robust facility where we have access to. Yeah, so it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do civilians seem to want when they come to you for your classes?
Yep. So this kind of switches conversation to kind of, I'll do my best, but this is kind of like business talk. We have an avatar or persona of a certain person that we have gravitate toward us. And that's an individual who's really serious about learning. They understand that they're going to have to pay for that it's not, we're not the cheapest guys in town. All right. We have a 5-to-1 or 7-to-1 instructor ratio, meaning for every 5 to 7 students, there's 1 instructor. And these aren't guys who just learned it last week. These are top pedigree guys, and they're generally from law enforcement, military. We've got, one of our instructors, DHS. We got one of our guys who's actually out in Afghanistan right now. He's working out at Bragg. We've got, the list goes on, the people that we have. So anyway, it's an individual who really wants to learn and who's gonna put the time in to learn, willing to pay for that, and willing to have the right gear. Meaning, we tell people, And I know, I'm gonna do a name drop here, and I don't want anybody to freak out, but a guy shows up with a high point weapon. I'm like, oh man, dude, get yourself a Glock or a Sig or a Smith and Wesson. Don't show up with a piece of crap. It's gonna fail on you. So you got to put the time in to seek out the right, reliable gear that's going to work when you need it to work the way you need it to work.
Excellent. Okay. So now your students are there. How do you explain survival mindset to them?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a great question. So and I love it because you purposefully just gave it a short, how do you explain survival mindset, right? So at the end of the day, I'm coming home with as minimal damage as possible, right? So let's enter into that conversation that way. I'm coming home with as minimal damage as possible if I have to get into an encounter. But oh, wait a minute, that starts with situational awareness. The whole thing starts with situational awareness. And I was looking to see, it's actually written on, well, there's a whiteboard here, but there's also a whiteboard right behind us. And I can't, but it's up there on the whiteboard. And we call it domains of combat. And these domains of combat, the first one is situational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is the 4 Ds: define, de-escalate, distract, and diffuse. Right? And in that, how do you de-escalate something? So that's using your voice and communicating. But let me just go back. Situational awareness. So how am I out in the world? Am I walking around like this with my face in my phone? Do I pull up to the house? And before I pull up to the house, do I turn the radio down a little bit and scan the cars on the block, see what's out of place, see what's up? Do I just pull into my driveway and do I look down the side of the house past the garbage cans? Do I scan? This is what I do when I come home. I'm all geared up. I always have this bad boy with me. I always have this bad boy with me. I got an extra mag loaded, and I'm ready to go if I have to.
Yeah.
But again, before that is being situationally ready. So just the other day, I came home, and now the Amazon, they do these deliveries all at 8 o'clock at night. They can do a delivery.
Yeah.
So they had this unmarked van. And I saw it, and it something just said, just go around the block. And then I went, and then I saw it was an Amazon guy, but they didn't have a marked truck. It was just a white truck. But then when he got out, he had the Amazon thing on.
Sure.
But that's an example of situational awareness. But now the next form would be, okay, determine what's going on. So he's an unknown. Okay, so now I got to put him in is he a good guy unknown, or is he a bad guy unknown, or is he a little funky? Do I need to keep watching? Right. So then now we can de-escalate, we can distract, we can diffuse, we can do all this at a distance. I'm not going to do this in a closed proximity because now I don't have time for reaction. My reaction gap is way too small.
Too short.
Yeah, too short. I'm going to do this if I can at a full car length distance with something that I can use as cover and concealment or blocking a barrier to entry. If we need to go hand to hand, or if I need to pull my gun, I can slip behind cover and do that. So, and then we have physical. So first is situational. The second is the 4 Ds: determine, de-escalate, distract, diffuse. The next is physical. That's why I kind of laugh when they're like, oh, I got a lone gun. Well, what about all the other shit? What about all the other stuff that happens first? Right? So then now we have physical. So first we said situational. Then we have the 4 Ds, which is basically verbals, right? And then we have physical. So now that's on hand-to-hand skill set. everything we can do with our empty hands. And then the last is lethal. And that would be edge weapon, blunt weapon, any tool or any force that would be lethal. So there talks about the mindset that has to happen in order to deal with whatever's out there. And we don't have to do them one, two, three, four. We can see something. We might have to go lethal right away.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
We can see something and we might have to talk right away. We can see something, we might have to go physical right away. We can see something and we can just escape.
Many options there. It's just like a law enforcement officer, you know, when we pull up to a scene.
Exactly.
And we get out of the car, it can go right to lethal force, or it could be just the sign of the police car settles everything, you know, or the sign of the guy in uniform settles everything. And anything can happen in between. I'm with you 100% on that.
Absolutely. And that's that speaks to mindset, like having the mindset to know, when do I need to throttle up and when do I need to wait a minute? If I go soft on this, if I approach this man as a man needs to be approached with respect, but I need to be able to read it, and that's all part of mindset.
Well put. Hank Hayes, how can people get in touch with you if they want to train with you?
Yeah. Great. So we have a number of different platforms, but our website is intuitivesp.com. So that's INTUITIVESP.com. So that's intuitivesp.com. We're on Facebook at Facebook/Intuitive Self-Protection. We're on IG. What are we on IG? I believe it's Hank Hayes _ISP. What's the other social media thing we have? We got a LinkedIn page, and then you can find us easily by just searching Hank Hayes Intuitive Self-Protection or Hank Hayes Martial Arts. I've been in the business for 23 years full time, so not hard to find. And let me give you a phone number if you like: 610-442-5539. And then, of course, on the military and law enforcement side of the house, NLB Tactical or No Live Blades. You can search it either way, and we'd be happy to talk to your contract officer and see how we can help.
Excellent. Yeah. All right, Hank, thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. And we'll be reaching out to you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Thank you all for the opportunity to share. And John, I'd love to get you on our podcast when we spin that
Love to, man. Love to be on it.
All right.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Guys, have a great day. Good. Stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Do what you need.
Thanks, bro. Take care.